Let's start with the big news out of Minnesota, where over the weekend, anti-ICE protesters stormed a church during service over a pastor's alleged ties to ICE. Now, in some of the footage, one of the protesters can be heard chanting, "Justice for Renee Good," who was, of course, the woman who was tragically killed earlier this year. And vision around that is disputed. But ex-CNN host Don Lemon was at that church. Let's just take a look at some of the vision.
So you can see the protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. In the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nikema stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull-Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE, and so here we go.
You could talk to the lead pastor.
Yeah.
I mean, storming a church during service. Hillary, can I get your reaction to this?
Well, Gabriella, lovely to be back with you again, although this is a ghastly topic because obviously we saw some parents escorting their little children out of the back there. This is a place that is very sacred. It is protected by the First Amendment, the right to individual religious, not only beliefs, but to assemble to worship. And I think this is something that's really actually rather perplexing. What was Don Lemon just like randomly in Minnesota, randomly going to church? No, I think this was something that he actually, I mean, I'm saying this purportedly, it looks like he instigated this. He was definitely there under very suspicious circumstances, and that's being extremely generous. And I think this is something that matters across America, their religious beliefs and their right to worship. So an absolutely red for optics.
And looking at Democrats, celebrities, so many of them blaming ICE officers for the chaos we're seeing in cities. I mean, AOC said that ICE should be abolished. California Governor Gavin Newsom suggested that ICE was state-sponsored terrorism after Renee Good died. But then he seemed to walk back those comments from his press office during an exchange with Ben Shapiro. Let's just listen to this.
Your press office tweeted out that it was state-sponsored terrorism, which, I mean, Governor, I do have to ask you about that.
Yeah.
That sort of thing makes our politics worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, our ICE officers obviously are not terrorists.
Yeah.
A tragic situation is not state-sponsored terrorism.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He's so slippery. I mean, he says that's fair in that interview with Ben, and then he'll say something completely different when he's speaking to his audience.
Well, this actually, Gabriella, is why only those politicians that have a true star north really do well. That was like Ronald Reagan. He knew exactly what he stood for. That's what the difference with Donald Trump. You can actually go back and see clips from him since 1994, and he has been consistent in every single, maybe it's 84, but every single interview, he was totally and utterly consistent with wanting to have America first, how we've been, taken advantage of with trade agreements, etc. And this shows Governor Newsom and his true colors. It's rather like, Gabriella, during COVID when he was discovered in that, remember the French Laundry, that restaurant in California, without a mask, eating with people. Meanwhile, he imposed other regulations on his state. He flip-flops, he's slippery, and yes, this is disingenuous to say the very least, and to backstab his own administration.
Absolutely. Now, Hillary, I'm really curious to get your thoughts about Greenland and the controversy around Greenland. The Danish Prime Minister says that Europe will not be blackmailed as European leaders push back against Trump's Greenland tariffs. Of course, the president announced that 8 countries would face 10% export tariffs for their opposition to the US taking control of the island. And Trump has also tweeted, NATO has been telling Denmark for 20 years that you have to get the Russian threat away from Greenland. Unfortunately, Denmark has been unable to do anything about it. Now it is time, and it will be done.